Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly reporting from Washington in the Weekdays at Bernie segment tonight. As you may know, ABC Newswoman Martha Raddatz, CNN anchor Anderson Cooper will moderate the second presidential debate on Sunday night in St. Louis. Both Ms. Raddatz and Mr. Cooper have ties to the Democrats, leading some to believe the debate will not be fair. Joining us now from North Carolina, Bernie Goldberg. And you say?
I say that, like most media elite, they're almost certainly not big fans of Donald Trump. But they have to be cognizant of the blowback after Lester Holt's performance in the first debate, where there was a belief, I think a legitimate one, that he was easier on Hillary Clinton than on Donald Trump. At this point, Bill, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're going to at least try to be on their best journalistic behavior and play it down the middle. Now, if they abuse my generosity and my faith, then they will have to pay a price, and perhaps I'll be back next week to hammer them.
Well, here's my theory. This presidential election is unlike any of the others in our lifetime because Mr. Trump is seen as a pariah, not an opponent like Mitt Romney or John McCain or President Bush the Younger. He's seen as a pariah, somebody that the press has to attack, almost like Fox News. All right? In order to be responsible journalists, this is the mindset. We have to attack Trump. You can't just ask him a question. You got to try to diminish him because he's so bad. And that's our job, to expose bad people. So that's the mentality that I think is coming in with a lot of these journalists.
I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, Donald Trump certainly provides enough ammunition for that belief, but there is a belief that because he's unlike any other candidate who's ever run, certainly in the modern era, he is, I'll use their words, he is dangerous, he is unhinged, he is a literal danger to the republic, and of course he's Hitler, which is, used over and over again. And because of that, you can't be an objective journalist, they say, because objectivity doesn't work this time around. They're wrong, and I'm no Donald Trump fan, but they're wrong to look at it that way. Their job is to present both sides. Let the American people are smart enough to decide.
Right. Even it out. Now, with the folks asking some questions, it's not just going to be the moderators. But here's where the fix is in. The moderators choose the questions from the folks. All right? So it's not like the folks are, it's extemporaneous. It's not. It's all these questions are decided beforehand. And you're going to get questions about the bankruptcy, the tax returns. But I'm curious to see if the emails and other Clinton things are going to come up.
Yeah, I have a feeling, again, getting back to the Lester Holt effect, I think they're going to be very careful about this. Look, the bigger issue to me, Bill, is that in debates like this, at a town hall debate, which is very different from a regular debate,
yes,
empathy is a big deal. It matters a lot.
Yep.
And Hillary Clinton, because she's a professional politician, knows how to convey empathy. She knows that George Burns was right when he said the secret of success is sincerity. And once you learn how to fake that, you got it made. Donald Trump, on the other hand, isn't Mr. Empathy. After the last debate, he said, I may go harder at her this time around. If he does, if he comes off as overbearing, if he comes off as nasty or mean, if he invades her space, I think he's got huge problems.
Yeah, he's got a, but he feeds off the folks too, and that might be an advantage for Mr. Trump.
They're saying, as president, he shouldn't be doing rallies, but I think we should, right? Yeah. We've done everything else the opposite. Well, no, this is the way you get an honest word out, because you can't give it to them because they're so dishonest.
The rally strategy let him bypass the media, but will it pay off after he assumes the presidency? Joining us now with reaction from Miami, Bernie Goldberg, the purveyor of BernardGoldberg.com. So, Bernie, he says they're dishonest, and he's going to go around them, not only with the tweets, but by holding these rallies. Is that a successful media strategy?
Not in the long run. Look, can he go to rallies and avoid news conferences? Yeah, he can. There's no law that says he has to have a news conference. It's not a good idea. At rallies, his adoring fans hang on every word. They don't challenge him. There is no room for questions at rallies. So he can. But in a free country like ours, we need a strong mainstream media to hold powerful people like Donald Trump accountable.
Yeah, but if they distort, if they go after him to the point where he feels that his message is not being fairly communicated, he's got to look for alternatives.
Well, it's not a good idea in the long run. Here's the thing. Donald Trump thinks that the press is dishonest, and to some extent he's right. And the press thinks Donald Trump, many in the press think Donald Trump is unfit to be president of the United States. This is not a healthy relationship. Both sides need to do have a little introspection. The press needs to understand that millions and millions of Americans thought they cheated in this last election, that they were rooting for Hillary Clinton. I'm one of them, by the way, and that they were rooting for Barack Obama before that. They can't dismiss this kind of criticism. They have to come to grips with it and do something about it. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has to look inward also. He has to say, if I speak to reporters, yes, they're going to be more critical of me and challenge me in a way that my fans at rallies don't. But I have to defend my policies and positions and the things I say. If he can do that, no problem. If he can't, there'll be a problem. And if the press is dishonest, as they have been in some cases during the campaign, they will continue to lose credibility and trust of the American people.
Let me come to you with a scenario, though, because I'm interested to hear what you think. You know that Barack Obama's administration went after the press for leaks more aggressively than any recent administration. This was coming from the liberal Democrat Barack Obama. What happens if the press goes after Donald Trump, some of the conflicts of interest potentially hidden inside of all his business dealings? Does he then go after the press, and does it become a clash of power centers that does not serve the American people?
Yes, it does not serve the American people. Donald Trump is notoriously thin-skinned. Even if you're one of the people in the audience tonight who love Donald Trump, and that's fine with me, you have to acknowledge he's thin-skinned. So if the press goes after him unfairly, I am on Donald Trump's side and I am against the press. But when they go after him for legitimate things and Donald Trump is thin-skinned and says they're just out to get me, he's wrong. And it's not good for Donald Trump as president. It's not good even for his most ardent supporters, and it's not good for the American people in general. We need a strong mainstream media to ask those tough questions. They need to be fair. And too often they're fair to people they like and unfair to people they don't like. That has to stop.
I agree with you.
But he can't just go to rallies. He has to speak.
So you want him to go out
for his own good.
So let me come now. Let me connect the dots on this, Bernie. I read a column by you, just spectacular. It was in connection with a column done by the public editor at the New York Times, Liz Spade. Right. Spade said, in fact, there's a lack of racial diversity at the liberal bastion New York Times. Even when covering the sports department, she says, no African Americans, few people of any kind, any race but white. And yet the New York Times holds every other major institution in the country accountable in terms of lack of diversity. So I read Bernie Goldberg, and Bernie Goldberg said, what about ideological diversity? What about a conservative point of view at the New York Times? Where's the diversity on that? So Bernie, where is it?
Well, it's not in the New York Times newsroom by and large, and it's not in most American newsrooms. Listen, I think skin-deep diversity is important, because there's a better chance that you, Juan Williams, will understand stories involving black culture and have more access to black communities than I would. I understand that. That's fine with me. But in the news business, an even more important kind of diversity is ideological diversity, diversity of opinion. So I've come up with a solution. This is great, okay? You'll love this.
Okay.
An affirmative action program for the smallest minority in America's newsrooms, conservative journalists. So we have an affirmative action for conservative journalists, but not any conservative journalist. The New York Times should go out and find Asian conservative journalists, black conservative journalists, Hispanic conservative journalists, and then we kill two birds, so to speak, with one stone. We have more diversity of the skin deep kind and more ideological diversity.
But you know, Bernie, but I think you pointed out that if you get more racial diversity, you're likely to get more liberal columnists.
That's right, because generally speaking, minorities are more liberal than
but I like
people.
your idea, Bernie, although I think you've been hitting the eggnog hard if you think it's going to happen anytime soon. Bernie.
I don't.
Thank you, Bernie.
Continuing now with our lead story, phony reporting. Joining us from Miami, the purveyor of BernardGoldberg.com. Mr. Goldberg has a column on fake news posted on his website. You know, it took Trump maybe an hour and a half to get to 270 electoral votes. He's there. He's president. But how many reports did we see on these stupid cable networks, not FNC, although I think there was a few stupid reports here, too. Oh, the Electoral College is going to defect. Oh, they're not. I mean, really. Come on.
All right. I don't want to nitpick your many, many talking points, and it's not so much that we disagree. I just want to fine-tune a couple of your points. One of them is the one you just made. You say the media should have stayed out of the Electoral College defector story because it wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely, it wasn't going anywhere. But I think they should have covered it this way. As a last-ditch, desperate effort by some liberal Democrats to delegitimize Trump's presidency even before he takes office. That, I believe,
yeah, that
is
would
a
have been okay. But
story.
do you know how many people have walked up to me in the last 2 weeks and said, gee, is there really a problem with the Electoral College? I mean, civilians, people just recognize me. You know?
Right. There isn't, and you're right. If they covered it the way you said, you're right. But if they covered it the way I'd like, then it's worth mentioning. The second point, you said that Donald Trump should stay out of the Russian hacking story until he becomes president. Here's what I would have suggested in your talking points. Say, whatever happened, Donald Trump would say this, whatever happened, when I become president, Mr. Putin, we will not tolerate any interference with our democratic institutions. You could have put those words
but Putin
in Donald
denies
Trump's
it.
mouth.
You know, that's another waste of time. My point is this. There's no win for Trump on
Bill,
this.
it's also a waste of time to tell the mainstream media what you think they should do.
No.
So while we're wasting our time...
No, it's not a waste of time. I mean, look, do you know the heavy hits that the national liberal media has taken in the last 6 months? They're never coming back.
Yeah, sure.
All right, this is just another grenade right into their nest. But for the nation, for the good of the people want Donald Trump to succeed as president. Injecting himself into speculation it's a waste of his time and a waste of the country's time. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, how about this speculation that you could have mentioned in your talking points, but you didn't? Donald Trump recently said that why should we believe the CIA on this hacking story when they got 9/11 wrong? Well, if the CIA said something that Barack Obama didn't like, you and 99.99% of your audience would have jumped all over Barack Obama for such a reckless statement. You could have mentioned that in your talking points, but you didn't.
Because it doesn't have anything to do with the essential point that the media is making up phony stories. I mean, I could have mentioned a lot of things in there. It's not about Trump. All my advice to Trump is to stay out of it. That wasn't a wise statement, but I agree with you. You know, and if he had stayed out of it, he wouldn't have made it. So my advice holds, all right? It holds.
Well,
but the story is that forget about fake news on the internet. You're getting fake news on cable television and in the newspaper. You're getting phony reportage. They all knew this Electoral College thing was phony, yet they pumped it up.
Well, they pumped it up because they wanted to delegitimize
make them look
Trump.
bad, sure.
Yeah, but what I was saying to you, apparently without success, what I was saying to you is they could have, that story is legitimate if you play it fairly. And to play it fairly is to say it's a desperate attempt by some people on the left to make this guy fail even before he takes office.
Okay,
that's a legitimate story.
But you see, that's like saying O'Reilly's going to go to Antarctica and rescue penguins, all right? Because
you're saying it's not going to happen.
Right. So I don't deal with that. I just deal with cold, hard facts. And when two stories are made up, totally fabricated, one, the Electoral College, they're gonna embarrass them. Everybody knew it was bull. And Putin threw the election to Trump. That's another bull story, and everybody knows it's bull.
Well, nobody knows that part of the story. Let's be fair. It may be bull.
Oh, come on. You think Putin influenced one vote?
Hold on. No, he didn't throw it to Trump. But
come on.
He may have tried to.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
I tried to hit like Babe Ruth, and I couldn't do it.
No, well, there's a good reason for that. But don't say so what, because you don't believe that. If he tried to do that, if he attempted to do that,
then Barack Obama should have scorched them, and he didn't. So blame it on Obama.
And Donald Trump should make clear that if it turns out to be that, he will scorch him.
Okay, and that's a legitimate point, but not until he gets in. Not until he gets in.
This is important. But you, Bill, as a very smart, you like that, and very influential member of the media.
And handsome.
And handsome, and very important, can try to influence Donald Trump.
I'm not going to try to influence Donald Trump. I'm not. I'm going to tell him, I'm going to suggest politely and respectfully when he does something good, which he did, and we'll tell you at the end of the show, and when he does something bad. And then I did the same thing with Barack Obama. I make suggestions for the country, but not for the president's well-beings. That's not my job. All right, Bernie Goldberg, everybody. Read his column on the fake news, a good one. We come right back. President Obama sees America as far more influential in the world, even as new terror attacks stun everybody. Then later, Waters investigating a satanic attack on Christmas. Also, we'll tell you about the Make America Great Again hats that Donald Trump signed to help wounded vets. This is quite a story. Those reports upcoming.